And we have college baseball super regional action this weekend as the Oregon Ducks will face off against the Texas A&M Aggies on Saturday, 11 a.m. first pitch from College Station. Oregon State, also in SEC country, will face the Kentucky Wildcats. 3 o'clock first pitch on Saturday. The man who will be on the call is going to be joining us in hour number 3. Mike Parker joins the show. Hour 1 starts right now at 620 Rip City Radio. And a very happy Friday. It is RCM. I am your host, Justin Myers. Super producer Brendan, safely partitioned on the other side of the glass. Thanks for getting up early with us or staying up late, however you are rolling on this particular Friday. We got a lot of stuff to dive into on the big show today. Snooze fest last night.
Dallas tried to make it interesting.
For like a second.
And
for like a
Boston's
second
no.
in the third quarter, I was like, come on, Luka. And they cut it to 6, I believe. Maybe it might have even just been 8. But it was at single digits for a bit in the third. And then, boop, bop, bip. That's 26-8 run. And the Boston Celtics absolutely put away game 1. But that's not the big news that's going on in the NBA. As nuts as it sounds, the NBA Finals are not the biggest news in the NBA. 2 other bits of interest. We talked about Dan Hurley potentially going to the Los Angeles Lakers a lot yesterday. Still more on that. And I've got some more thoughts on the Dan Hurley to the LA Lakers and why maybe it's a good fit. But is there something with the Dan Hurley to the Lakers that we are not processing? Is there something that we are massively overlooking that we are choosing to overlook? Because sure, yet another college coach to move on from the NCAA ranks to the NBA ranks, not unheard of. It's happened a handful of times before. Tip of the cap to super producer Brendan, who came up with this stat. College coach directly to the NBA, winning record. There's 2 of them. Billy Donovan's one of them, went to the finals. And then the other was PJ Carlesimo? Is that who we decided? Was it PJ Carlesimo?
We determined he was 10 games under.
Oh, he was 10 games under 500, so PJ Carlesimo wasn't even him. We didn't even know the other one. Is it Calipari? Might have been Calipari.
Brad Stevens. Yeah.
And that's right. It was Brad Stevens, whom I
Brad
don't
Stevens,
know
Billy
why,
Donovan,
because I loved Brad Stevens Butler Bulldogs.
Me too.
I loved them. They were the best.
Long hair Gordon Hayward.
You want to talk about, because Brad Stevens is looking like he might win an NBA championship as an executive. Never won it as an NBA head coach. Came close a couple of times, but never won it as a head coach. But he's potentially going to win an NBA championship as an executive. And I think more and more now that the internet's coming into our lives, we're realizing like, oh, yeah, executives have a whole lot to do with what's going on. Like, yeah, I remember back in the 90s, the whole Jordan and the Jerry Krause thing, but it was all Jordan and it was all Phil Jackson, right? Then when the Lakers went on their run, kind of talked about Mitch Kupchak a little bit and Jerry West a little bit, but it was Kobe and it was Shaq and it was Phil Jackson. But really, I think the guy that's on the ESPN set, Bob Myers, no doubt, best last name probably in the business.
Gosh, you got a nice looking suit, man. He looks just like
I've
$1 million.
mentioned this before, though. It's something I will never understand. It's truly something I will never understand. I only hope to be a very wealthy person one day in my life. I hope to. I do not understand this phenomenon of very wealthy people and bad haircuts. I don't understand it. I don't get it. Is it because there's too many yes men and yes women and yes people in their lives? Because the percentage of rich people to poor people and bad haircuts is disproportionately rich people. How many billionaires do you see with bad haircuts?
A lot.
It's amazing.
Mark Davis leads the way, though.
Mark Davis, bad haircut. who's the one mean guy in Sheldon Adelson, the guy in Vegas? Terrible haircut. Terrible haircut. Bill Gates, bad haircut. Elon Musk, not really that great haircut.
Elon's like
Bezos went bald. Bezos fired it before he quit.
Oh, he did.
Good for him.
I'm out.
Fired it before he quit. But like the amount of Zuckerberg, not bad. He seems to have a decent haircut. Not expecting like Brad Pitt level hair, which I still think is Brad Pitt's still the hair goat. Wouldn't you say?
Brad Pitt's up there for sure. Bradley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper's also in that conversation. Those Helmsworths.
Yeah.
I don't know. You pick
I can start
one.
naming them, man. All guys in Hollywood. I'm like, give me your hair, please.
But you see, like these rich, super rich, and like I don't know how rich Bob Myers is, but he's probably done very, very well for himself, and he's just got a bad haircut. Like I don't get it. I truly like. There are very skilled stylists, barbers all throughout the world, and they're just like, yeah, we'll get you looking okay. Don't need you to look like Brad Pitt. Don't need you to look like Bradley Cooper. Can't make you a Helmsworth, but I can make you look like, a normal citizen. He's like, nah, let's do the high poofy, split it down the middle. Like, all right. Sharp suit, though. Sharp suit. But I believe it was kind of Bob Myers who were like, boy, these executives, yeah. Like, Moneyball has something to do with that as well, where we're starting to pay attention to like the way that trades and moves are made. But yeah, Brad Stevens about to win an NBA championship. You want to talk about one of the all-time, I love the butterfly theory. I love the what ifs. What if the dominoes fell this way or that way? And what in the world of sports changes? Brendan, what happens if Gordon Hayward hits that half-court shot? I mean, you are like, what in the world happened? Butler is a national champion. And you think about, like, the dominant may have fallen another way because if Butler wins the national championship, now maybe Brad Stevens still says, I want to coach in the NBA.
Either year,
that
right?
Yeah, because they made it to back-to-back games.
They're runner-up first 2 years in a row. But I think
the first year, though, they couldn't hit they lost to Kentucky, right?
Right, yeah.
Couldn't hit their backside with both hands, as my old coach Fish used to say. You can't hit he didn't say backside, but I'm going to choose to say that at 6:08 in the morning. RIP, Coach Fish, you were the man. But Coach Fish was like, yeah, he can't hit his backside with both hands. That the second time around, they had a shot to beat Duke with maybe one of the greatest shots ever. I mean, they still play the highlight of the miss.
Right.
That's how big of a deal it was.
Yeah.
Brendan, what happens if Gordon Hayward hits that shot?
And
Butler's a national champion.
Yeah.
Right? And then, for whatever reason, Butler becomes the new Gonzaga. And Brad Stevens is like, I'm going to stick around here. And I'm going to try to – now, Gonzaga obviously never gotten over the hump. They've made a Final Four, but they made a final game, but they've never won the national championship. What happens if Gordon Hayward hits that shot? Now, maybe nothing. Maybe there's just an extra banner there, and there's one less in Cameron Indoor, and Gordon Hayward is kind of that trivia question of like who hit the half-court shot to beat Duke. Like, oh, it's Gordon Hayward. But maybe Brad Stevens sticks around at Butler. He turns Butler into Gonzaga. What does Gonzaga become like?
Yeah, he might have for a few more years. Maybe he delays it a little bit. But like, unlike Mark Few, who's like, I am very content and happy to live in Spokane, Washington for the rest of my days. There was always that itch from people who knew Brad Stevens. Hey, he wants to coach at the highest level.
Clearly, yeah, because he was ambitious enough to take the Butler job at like age 24. It wasn't that. He was like 30-something. But
yeah, and Justin, I don't know, for your perspective, how humble must it be for him to be like, to walk away after, I just want to look at his record. They went, his last year was the COVID year, or, excuse me, it was the year after the COVID year. Sorry. So 2020, 2021, they go 36-36, and that's one of his worst years as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
He strategically takes a step back. Danny Ainge retires for a day until Utah hires him. Which we all know that kind of odd. And then, like I said, went on to make two great hires in Ime Udoka, who didn't work out for other reasons, and then Joe Mazzulla.
And then Joe Mazzulla.
So
then it's put together a team that was capable of making the finals.
But how many
and then
coaches,
capable of now making the finals twice, and now the odds-on favorite.
But how many coaches, Justin, could very much like Pat Riley when he stepped away and went into the. But even Pat Riley came back down a few times. It was like, hey.
Well, that's the funniest story that's never been told, which is Pat Riley was the coach of the Miami Heat and then decided, I want to go into the front office. He did exactly what Brad Stevens is doing. What, we got Shaq?
Yep.
Wait a minute.
Okay, never mind.
Wait a minute. Down. We got Shaq? Yeah, like the Lakers let him go? Shaq, the guy that won 3 championships, is the most dominant big man. We got that guy on our. Hey, Stan Van Gundy, don't you want to spend more time with your kids? I hope you do, because you're going to. I'm just going to be the coach now. So
that takes humility.
Funniest story.
Oh, it is
never told in NBA circles is sitting around 2005, I want to say, and it's just like Pat Riley. I'm the GM. Boy, that Dwayne Wade kid, he's got something there. I think. Wait, what? We got Shaq?
Yep.
Or I imagine he wasn't told that. He probably picked up the phone and
this guy's available?
Was it Mitch Kupchak or was it Jerry West? I'm not sure who was running the Lakers at the time, but it was probably Dr. Jerry Buss, who was picking up the phone. Hey, Jerry, you want to give a Shaq? Sure. What do you need? That's all? Him and Kobe aren't getting along? I think he'll get along fine with Dwayne Wade. Please and thank you. Stan, I'm a coach now.
No, I think that just takes so much humility.
It's the best.
Yeah, so much humility from Brad Stevens to do what he did, and so many coaches would be like, no, I'm still going to prove I can coach instead of just walking away, and he just kind of did. Like, I don't know.
So anyways, he's the other college coach, but now Dan Hurley may potentially by the end of the show, who knows if we'll get breaking news. They're meeting later today. Don't know if they're meeting this early. Probably not. They're not going to do a Friday news dump, are they? They're going to want to roll him out.
I did see Woj say last night when he was reporting at the finals, said they wanted to wrap this up by the weekend. So I think it's entirely possible that if he agrees, who knows? There still could be a Coach K, nah, I'm staying. But yeah, I think we'll know this weekend, Justin.
All right, coming up next, some more NBA stuff. A couple other thoughts from the finals, a couple other thoughts on Dan Hurley, and a couple other thoughts. A lot of thoughts. A think piece coming up next with the NBA, because I also have some thoughts on what the commissioner had to say about NBA expansion. We may play some NBA Geography Bowl. Did you guys have a Geography Bowl? We didn't. Geography Bowl coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, the sports world descended upon the they call it the city on a hill, Beacon Hill being the hill. The city of Boston had the sports world as everybody was wondering a couple things. One, what's going to happen in Game 1? That one was easy. The Celtics blew them out. In terms of NBA Finals, it was a blowout. When the Mavericks with 6 minutes to go clear the bench, that's a blowout. Now, learn your lesson, kids. Learn your lesson. There is some things to take from Game 1. One of those things is if Porzingis plays like this, it might be a short series. But the biggest determining factor, I believe, into what is ultimately going to happen in a 7-game series, especially at the highest level, which it doesn't get any higher than the NBA Finals, adjustments from Game 1 to Game 2. See, that's where the advantage for the road team comes in. As weird as it sounds, the Mavericks are kind of in a good spot right now. Hot take, and we're not even a Hot Take Friday yet, but a hot take, the Mavericks are in an okay place right now. Here's why. A, only got to win 1 on the road. You don't have to win 2 on the road to take the home court advantage back. You just got to win 1 on the road. B, you got to rest pretty much your entire stars or your entire starting 5 and rotation players. They only played a handful of minutes in that second half. And at this point in the season, at this point in the playoffs, just a little extra juice might be the difference. And C, which I think is the biggest reason why Dallas is not in such a bad spot after all, they get to make all the adjustments. If you're Boston, what are you going to adjust? You just won big in Game 1. Porzingis is back. He looks like he has no rust whatsoever. What are you going to adjust? Weird analogy time, Brendan. Weird analogy time. Watch a lot of Dateline. Watch a lot of true crime. I watch a lot of murder shows. And it's also helpful because I have a legal expert that sits next to me on the couch as I watch these. So I get to ask a lot of questions about what's going on because they edit certain things. And I go, why isn't this and this and this? She's like, yeah, you can't do that. So every once in a while you'll see these things and you'll go, like you heard like hung jury, right? Deadlocked, can't come to a conclusion, can't come to a decision. We are deadlocked, and the judge declares mistrial. I have learned from my legal expert wife, if that ever happens, if the prosecution then offers a deal, take the deal. Because here's why. You go into the second trial, your defense, your defense isn't going to change. It's going to be the same story. It's going to be the same story. You kind of have to. You have now shown your cards. Guess what the prosecution gets to do? They get to attack your defense from a different angle. So it's like, oh, hung jury. Guess what? The Celtics are locked into what they're going to do. Now, it might be a very successful, clearly in Game 1, but the Celtics are locked in. Adjustments from Game 1 to Game 2 are everything in a series. So on Sunday night, it's going to be fascinating to see what the Dallas Mavericks look like. Do they just hope that maybe Kyrie's a little bit better than 0 for 5 from three-point land? Maybe. Do they maybe look at that and go, we need to move the ball a little bit more? We need to get more players involved because the Celtics, they had 6 players in double figures. They moved the ball around.
Double figures, you say?
Double figures.
My favorite kind of offense, Justin.
And what do you call that, Brendan? When you move the ball around and everybody gets a little...
Sharing the sugar. Yes, sir.
There it is. I'm surprised it didn't end up in the update.
Try to keep it brief and concise.
But Dallas isn't in a terrible spot. It seems like it's bad. They're not. They're not in a terrible spot because they get to make all the adjustments. And if you're Boston, it is status quo. And so Dallas is like, all right, let's watch the film. Let's see. There's what they did. Here's where they exploited us. Here's where we can change some things up. And maybe we get a ball game in Game 2. Maybe I'm just trying to be a positive guy on a Friday. But that's what I took from the finals. Also, tip of the cap to Kristaps Porzingis. right? Because he went out with a calf strain opening series against Miami, I believe. He hasn't played in 12 playoff games. The last 12 playoff games he hasn't played. That dude looked like he was in absolute, as they call it, mid-season form. And he was the factor. He was the difference maker. It was Porzingis on the Celtics side, and I think it was Kyrie on the Dallas side. And maybe there's more to this Kyrie Boston thing. I don't know. Maybe it pressing a little bit. Maybe there's still some there. Or maybe just, Boston may have one of the best on-ball guard defenders. And Kyrie's not able to get buckets. But it's going to be fascinating to see what happens from game 1 to game 2, because Boston, if you're Boston, why are you changing your strategy? Why are you changing it up? As Dallas goes into game 2, they're like, look, we just got to steal one game here. We get all the advantage back. We know what they're going to do. And also if you're Dallas, you're like, how much do we focus on Porzingis? Didn't know how much he's going to play. Didn't know how rusty he was going to. It turns out he's going to play a lot. He played 20 minutes, scored 20 points, and they're like, all right, we got to figure some things out. Yes, Brendan.
Yeah, did you see, speaking on that point, because, again, I think it's easier. You're totally right, but easier said than done.
Go on, finish your thought.
In Boston, because I don't know if you saw, Justin, I kind of teased it a little bit yesterday, but I'm sure you saw the videos of the Boston crowd chanting for a solid 30 to 60 seconds, Kyrie sucks.
Yeah.
Like, it was loud.
Yeah,
it was audible. It was so clear he heard it.
But he's been, that's where I don't know if it's that big of a deal. He's been through this before. He knows going in, everybody's going to yell, sure, Kyrie sucks. It also kind of rolls off the tongue. You know what I mean?
That's not very nice. But
it's unfortunate. Sorry.
But that being said, it just, I think that it's going to be really hard for them
sometimes
to win in Boston.
Sometimes your name can be a bit of a disadvantage when it comes to chanting.
That's true. But
true story. There was a movie in the 90s. It was called PCU, which is funny to go back and look at now, what we thought was politically correct. But it was a movie called PCU, and there was a character in the movie PCU named Gutter. And they started this chant at the end of the movie, right? This big, and then the one guy starts chanting, "Gutter is a tool. Gutter is a tool." And it was very, very funny part of this movie. Well, then Brendan, your host's very close friends thought it'd be hilarious at a all school assembly in high school to start chanting "Myers is a tool." And boy, it caught on like wildfire.
Oh man!
So sometimes your name
yeah, I hear you.
So there I am, trying to run a pep assembly, trying to get everybody fired up so we can beat South Umpqua, and everybody starts chanting "Myers is a tool."
Oh, Umpqua, man.
South Umpqua.
Yeah,
It
sounds like a good rivalry there,
dude. Douglas South Umpqua, solid rivalry.
Yeah,
not like Bandon, hated Bandon.
But to your
don't
point,
have time to get into that.
Yeah, but
we got to get back to the NBA.
Yeah, to your point.
I talked enough about high school football glory days yesterday.
But to your point on the Celtics, and kick it back over to you, is like we've talked about. If there's a window of opportunity, Justin, Boston has stunk in game 2s.
That is also true. And I think it kind of goes back to what I was saying. There's a little bit of like Miami figured out something from game. Well, Miami figured out shoot 58% from 3.
That'll do it in any game.
That's what they figured out.
Any team, that'll do it.
But like I think Cleveland kind of made some adjustments into game 2. It wasn't that way with the Pacers because the Pacers had them in game 1, remember? Remember they had it, choked it away in game 1. But you look at those first couple of series, yeah, it's like you get into that game 1, you take your lumps, you go back, you figure out what works, what didn't, and you make your adjustments. Meanwhile, Boston's going to be sitting there going like, why are we changing anything? And I think usually you'll get a better performance from Dallas. All right, there we go. There's thoughts on the NBA Finals last night. Dallas, it looked bad. It's worse. It's not. It looks worse than it is. I may also have a future on Dallas winning the NBA championship. So maybe I'm trying to talk myself into it. All right,
you have an interest on that?
It's a smidge,
okay,
small,
fair enough,
for funsies.
Fair enough.
I kind of bought it when Luka hit that shot over Gobert. I was like, there's your next Jordan right there. So, next thoughts. All right, let's talk Dan Hurley real quick because there is something that we have kind of overlooked with this whole Dan Hurley to the Lakers thing, right? Because obviously you focus on the money. Oh, they might be offering him $1 gajillion. That's clear. I mentioned it yesterday. Every coach at a high level, and you determine whatever a high level is, every coach at a high level believes or wants to give it a shot at the highest level. Understand all of that. Fit means everything. Fit, we talked about it with J.J. Redick, right? Coaching in the NBA is not a solvable equation. You can't say this coach plus this team equals championship. It's fit, it's temperament. And if you know anything about Dan Hurley or the Hurley family in general, but if you ever watched Dan Hurley coach 35 to 40 college basketball games, Brendan, he lives and dies on every possession. He fights with the opposing student section. And that's what's made him special. And I think that works in college. He is a fiery coach who is out there looking for a fight. And I always kind of like those guys. But I don't know if does that work in the NBA? I guess Mikey Malone is one of those guys, but I think even he has like toned it down a smidge.
He's had to.
Do you think that because talk about maybe his secret sauce is not his passion and not his fire and is not his energy. Maybe his secret sauce is just drawing up plays, which, by the way, I heard that. I should have known this, and I'm sure I did and then forgot it. Like, the architect of the UConn basketball offense is assistant coach Luke Murray, son of Bill Murray, Ghostbuster.
Not know he was Bill Murray's son.
Yeah.
I knew that someone.
Bill Murray. So all the offensive stuff that, like, ironically enough, J.J. Redick and LeBron James were talking about on their podcast. Remember they were talking about on their podcast how smart Dan Hurley was and all the smart NBA-style sets that they run at UConn. And they're like, man, Dan Hurley's really smart. I bet J.J. Redick might be rethinking that podcast. Turns out a lot of that, architect Luke Murray.
So does that mean...
Son of Peter Venkman.
That's definitely interesting. I did not know that. So my question is, do you think he is Dan Hurley's Tex Winter? That's great terms.
One of the rumors
or is he UConn's first call when Dan Hurley leaves?
These are all important, interesting conversations if, in fact, Dan Hurley does leave. But here's what I wonder, though. Can Dan Hurley coach the way he wants to coach in the NBA with a team with LeBron James on it? I don't know if he can. And Anthony Davis, for that matter. I don't know if he can. I don't know if Dan Hurley, a guy who is, like, he wants to fight everybody. He wants to fight the officials. He wants to fight the other team. He wants to fight the opposed. Like, didn't he challenge, like, Villanova fans to a fight?
He's definitely
and I love it.
There.
And it's perfect for college. I don't know if you can do that in the NBA.
I don't think you can challenge to fight, Greg Popovich in a game.
Or,
I don't think that would work.
Who's like, well, they're the ones with all the famous fans, but, like, I guess, like, could you like, if the Lakers were going up against the Celtics and he's like, I'm going to fight Mark Wahlberg. You know what I mean?
That would be pretty funny.
But that's the thing that in terms of fit, like, no doubt, Dan Hurley, incredible basketball guy, incredible basketball brain. Does he have, there is an NBA temperament that you have to have. And it's a weird line because there is the one hand, and this is not a criticism, it's an observation, but what did everybody say about Terry Stotts? Club Terry. Two-player friendly. Players are too comfortable. Nobody's held accountable. Good enough to win in the regular season, not good enough to win in the postseason. But then there is the other side, which we have seen of guys that come in. I think the latest was Jim, is it Beeline?
Beeline.
Jim Beeline came in.
Michigan.
He was at Michigan. He was at West Virginia before that. He was at Michigan. Took Michigan to the championship game. Is that Larry Nance Jr. on that team, I think? Tim Hardaway Jr.
And this guy named Jordan Poole.
Jordan Poole's on that team. So, took him to the championship game. He gets the job with the Cleveland Cavaliers. LeBron then leaves. Okay, I'm going to coach LeBron. No, you're not. You're going to get and he was like playing motivational movies and like doing pump-up speeches. And the players were like, dude, it's December. Like, I don't know if you know this. Our season ends in, like, worst case scenario, it's going to be April. It's a long time from now. It didn't work. Failed. A lot of the same thing were said about Rick Pitino, right? Rick Pitino, if you ever watch Rick Pitino coach, I was lucky enough to sit in the media section a handful of years ago at the first and second round, and Rick Pitino was there. He was coaching Louisville at the time. Brendan, he never shuts up. He never shuts up. They're up by 25. He's still barking at officials. He can't stop. And, like, there are a lot of people like, yeah, no wonder it didn't work. He's just screaming and yelling and barking. As 82 games is a lot. So if, in fact, Dan Hurley does get the job, can he coach the way he wants to coach in the NBA? There's too many games. Every once in a while, and nobody wants to admit this in the NBA, but every once in a while, there's just about 5 or 6 losses on the schedule. It's like too much travel, injuries are you're going to lose this game. And could you imagine Dan Hurley load management? Could you imagine that? This is a guy that coaches the exact same in the national title game, in the Final Four, in the Dome there in Arizona, as he did for Feast Week on Thanksgiving. Coaches the exact same way. I don't know if that guy can deal with load management. How's he going to deal with Anthony Davis going like, I got a headache. I'm out for 3 games, coach. See ya in the other side. Or maybe it works out. Maybe it's just he needs to get LeBron. You get LeBron on board because that's all that matters, right? He goes in and says, LeBron, I want to coach this team this particular way. I need you. And LeBron might come in and be like, Coach, I love it. This is what I've always wanted. This is what I love about basketball, because LeBron's had an odd fascination with college basketball, probably because he never played it. But he does have an odd fascination with college basketball. And maybe LeBron's like, yeah, I think we can do it. And then everybody else will fall in line, except for Anthony Davis, who has proven that he shall not fall in line for anyone other than Anthony Davis.
Well, Frank Vogel during the bubble for a brief moment.
Did he fall in line, or was he finally like 4 months rested up and was like, all right, I'll give it my all?
Yeah, sure. Maybe that.
I'm such a hater. I am.
It's not.
I am such a hater.
Yeah. It's not bad.
They're weird. Old LeBron James and often injured Anthony Davis. You give them 4 months before the playoffs and then put in what? Oh, no travel whatsoever? Odd how they seem to play at their absolute best. I was going to talk about Commissioner talking about NBA expansion. That's going to come up later. Maybe we'll throw that into Make or Miss as well, because I do want to talk some college baseball. We got Super Regionals this weekend. Mike Parker's going to be joining the show, but there is other college football to get to. Interesting article I found. Tip of the cap to our friend of the program, Josh Pate, who threw it out there. Was Nick Saban moneyballing college football, and is that loophole ultimately going to become closed? We'll talk about that. But before we get on campus and before we wrap up hour number 1, I do want to tell you about Oregon's roofing, siding, windows, and bath renovation experts. I, of course, am talking to you about the good folks at DeBella. And if you've been thinking about updating your home, well, now that we are here in the summertime, it's the perfect season to make it happen. DeBella is going to do phenomenal work for you. How do I know that? They've been featured in Better Homes and Garden, HGTV. Also, they're going to handle your home improvement project better than anyone else. How do I know that? 15,000 5-star reviews. That's on Google, and that number keeps going up, up, and up. Award-winning customer service. DeBella's received top marks from Angie's List and Home Advisor. And as you plan your summertime spending, we're all trying to save a bit of money. So, you could potentially pay for your new roof with savings and federal and state incentives. Go with solar. That's right. DeBella's got all the details about updating your roof with solar shingles. Estimates are always free, scheduled on a time that is convenient for you. So now is the time to update your roofing, siding, windows, bath renovations, and with DeBella's incredible financing of no payments until 2025 on approved credit, you can start saving today. All right, we are officially 85 days away. 85, even though we want to live in the moment, stay in the present. I think we can do both. I think we can, as Casey Kasem used to say. You familiar with Casey Kasem? This generation. Casey Kasem was a big deal in our lives. Casey Kasem. He was the biggest radio man maybe ever. Maybe ever. And Casey Kasem. So like what Ryan Seacrest does, the top 40, America's top 40, that was Casey Kasem. And he would do he would run through the top 40 every week. He was on a lot of shows. He did a cameo Casey Kasem did on Saved by the Bell. He showed up to help Bayside raise some money as they were doing a dance competition to get new cheerleader outfits. Screech and Lisa won when they did the sprain. A whole lot there. But Casey Kasem used to always say, Brendan, keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. And who's the voice of Shaggy from Scooby-Doo? You familiar with Scooby-Doo? You meddling kids. So we want to keep our feet on the ground, but also, and enjoy the moment, enjoy this beautiful Friday, but also keep our eyes on the prize, which is college football and football season, which is just 85 days away. Saw this article, and I'm fascinated by it for a handful of different reasons. Did Nick Saban moneyball college football over the last 10 years? Maybe potentially. How did he do it? And is that loophole being closed up? We talk about it now as we go on campus. Once again, proving Nick Saban, work smarter, not harder. You know, one of the things that they missed in the movie Moneyball, which was a lot of things, even though it's a very good movie and we like Moneyball, but they missed a couple things. One, they didn't mention that Miguel Tejada was playing at like an MVP level. No, it was Hatterberg playing first. They also didn't mention they had three pitchers in Zito, Mulder, and Hudson, who are all at nearly Cy Young level. But one of the things, the economic strain that the Oakland A's had that Moneyball found was, find the diamonds in the rough, find the guys off the scratch, the island of misfit toys, right? But they also did this. When they went into draft players, they were drafting players not straight out of high school. They were drafting a lot of guys out of college. And why would they do that? As you have seen now with the Pittsburgh Pirates, Brendan, who's the Pittsburgh Pirates' best player?
Probably Paul Skeens.
Paul Skeens, exactly right. You nailed it.
Crazy, it's a rookie, but
Paul Skeens was playing college baseball, 2 years ago?
A year ago, he was beating my Beavers.
He was beating Oregon State a year ago. You know this because Sherwood's own Adley Rutschman still on his rookie deal. Rookie deals in Major League Baseball take 7 years. 7 years. Now, sometimes you can arbitrate out of it. Sometimes teams in good faith will negotiate out of it. But cheap teams, you're like, you're an all-star and everything, great, but you're going to get paid $700,000 because that's just what the rookie deal is. So the Oakland A's figured out the faster we can get these guys up to the major league level and not be wasting time in the minor league level, the more we can get out of them on these cheap deals. They didn't talk about that in Moneyball. They were just like, nope, we're all geniuses and we see the world and all you scouts are idiots. There was also some other parts of it. Nick Saban, apparently, over the last 10 years has been doing the same thing. Because if you look at what Nick Saban has done with his coaching staff, and they did a whole piece on it on game day earlier this year, right? There's a big table, the Alabama coaching staff, right? There's Nick Saban, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. And then there's the outer circle, right? Which is full of a lot of analysts and just they're not actual coaches on the coach's payroll. I think they were listed as football analysts. If you've ever looked at who he made those analyst jobs, what they were made up of, well, we know a handful of them. One was Steve Sarkisian. One was Lane Kiffin. One was Mario Cristobal for a time. One was Butch Davis, who was at Tennessee. Yeah, what he would do is he would find these coaches who were, whether fair or unfair, fired from big-time coaching jobs. But clearly you had to do something right as a coach to be able to make it to that level as a coach, right? Clearly you don't just get a head coaching job at a Power 5 level by accident. You clearly have some value. But, Brendan, what happens when coaches get fired? They get paid.
They're owed a lot of money.
They get paid. Now, most of those payments, those buyouts, they're offset by money being made. So Nick Saban was like, hey, Butch Davis, you may not be good enough to be the head coach at Tennessee, and they have fired you, but you're good enough to be an analyst for the Alabama Crimson Tide. How does $40K a year sound? And Butch Davis goes, well, Tennessee is paying me $9 million, and they're only going to subtract this $40K. Deal. Hey, Lane Kiffin, you want to come work for me as an offensive analyst and then ultimately would become an offensive coordinator? I'm going to pay you about $50,000. Great, because USC is still paying me, well, we don't know, but we can only assume, about $8 million. Brendan, he was moneyballing it. He was hiring these guys at $40,000 a year. So, and basically, all these other teams in their buyouts were subsidizing Alabama's assistant coaching pool. So not only is Nick Saban one of the best in terms of architect and building a college program in that era, not the NIL era, but it turns out he was the smartest economically because nobody else thought to try this. Now, also, nobody else really would have had the clout or the gumption to be like, hey, I know you just got fired. You want to work for $40K? But when you look back at it and you go, man, what a financial savvy guy. Because these coaches, while maybe a year they want to sit on the beach and count their money, after that, they get antsy. You can only play so much golf. Coaches are wired different. They want to coach. They want to get into it. Steve Sarkisian was fired from USC, and obviously there's a much reported on battle with alcoholism, and it looks like Sarkisian has turned his life around, and that's awesome. But he was famously fired from USC. Looked like he was persona non grata. He is out, like, toxic, can't touch him. Alabama's like, hey, Sark, why don't you come work on our third down and goal line offense? That's all, Brendan, that's all he did when he first got to Alabama. Come to Alabama, work with Lane, who you worked with before. Let's shore up our third down and our goal line, and we'll pay you $50,000 a year. That was turned into, what's he getting paid at Texas? $10 million per?
Something like that.
Into a $10 million. Butch Davis, he's a coach at Arkansas State now, not Power 5, but still a head coach. I think the head coach at Maryland currently was a analyst from Alabama. Mario Cristobal, parlay after he got fired at Florida International, gets the job at Oregon. Use that as a stepping stone to get the job at Miami, getting paid a lot of money. But it turns out the new regulations that are coming down the pike, yeah, that loophole might be closing soon. But what a fascinating look at the economics of Nick Saban's behemoth that he built. We've got hour number 2. That's on the other side. Next, 620 Rip City Radio. It is 7 a.m. on a Friday morning. Justin Myers with you. NBA Finals Game 1 last night saw the Boston Celtics take a 1-game-to-none lead over the Dallas Mavericks, 107-89. Count them, 6 Boston Celtics managed to total double figures, including 20 off the bench for Kristaps Porzingis, his first playoff action since round 1. Los Angeles Lakers and UConn head coach Dan Hurley will be meeting later on today to discuss him taking over the helm for the Lakers. According to Brian Windhorst of ESPN, Lakers want to have this wrapped up by the end of the day. College baseball later this weekend. Oregon set to face the Texas A&M Aggies on Saturday in the Super Regional from College Station. Oregon State will be in Lexington, Kentucky to take on the Wildcats also on Saturday. That's a 3 o'clock first pitch for the Beavs, 11 o'clock a.m. first pitch for the Oregon Ducks. Mike Parker, who is on the call, joins us in hour number 3. Hour 2 starts right now at 620 Rip City Radio. And welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Hopefully you are having a fantastic Friday. Make or miss coming up in 20 minutes. Adam Silver says the NBA is definitely going to expand. Their focus is on expansion. Not so fast. Seattle and Vegas. So the commissioner discussed the need to find markets could do the most to grow the game. Silver's referenced Seattle, Las Vegas as potential new host cities. Said at some point, we'd like to look outside the United States in addition to Canada. This might not be the right moment for that, but he says he's thinking long term. I don't know if that was everything that Adam Silver does, Brendan, I believe is calculated, right? You don't just come out and say like, well, yeah, we definitely want to grow the sport. We definitely want to expand the league. Seattle, Vegas is not quite a lock for you guys yet. I wonder what the reasoning behind that is.
Things like local governments and owners. And
I think it has so much more to do with Vegas than it does to do with Seattle. I think Seattle has jumped through all the hoops. Now, I've never been to T-Mobile Arena. Have you been to T-Mobile Arena in Vegas?
Sorry, phone fell down. Yes, I have been to T-Mobile Arena.
So I've never been there. Is it an NBA arena? Is it NBA caliber?
Yes.
Or are they going to have to build, like they do with the A's, they're going to have to build a new basketball arena?
Considering it's an arena for a major league hockey team, it has a lot of those same amenities, so yes.
Okay. Because
now, like, all the little,
I had heard that was one of the things, like one of the rumors, the scuttlebutt, is that LeBron James and his group of people who were potentially eyeballing owning this new Las Vegas franchise is that they also want a new arena.
That's interesting.
Which is funny because like T-Mobile Arena is like 8 years old, right?
Yeah, it's let's see, built in 2014, and it
holds, 10 years old.
And it holds
a crusty old relic,
and it holds more than Moda. So I mean, like again, Major League Hockey team, and it's not like if it was like 10 years ago, and you're like, oh, the best we have is, no disrespect, the MGM Grand Arena, or some of those smaller venues where they play like the Mountain West basketball tournament and whatnot. Yeah, okay, that's fair. But T-Mobile, absolutely a NBA arena.
Where else would the NBA go if they don't go to Vegas and they don't go to Seattle? The only other one I can think of is Nashville. Nashville is the fastest growing city in all of America right now.
Not too close to Memphis at that point?
I mean,
for one state, can Tennessee support 2 NBA teams?
I don't know enough about the inner workings, but I believe, much like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, right? They're both in Pennsylvania, but they're on opposite sides. I think the same thing about in baseball, you got St. Louis and Kansas City. They're both in Missouri, but they're on opposite sides. So I I think so. I don't know. I just think Nashville is such a big market right now.
So let's play a game.
They've got the Bridgestone Arena. You've got the building right there.
Could you,
That was Seattle's problem for a long, long time. Was either Seattle had two problems. One, after Clay Bennett stole them from Seattle and stole the Sonics and took them to Oklahoma City.
Yeah, he makes a good cup of coffee.
No, that's Howard Schultz. Howard Schultz sold it to Clay Bennett.
Yes, you're right.
Clay Bennett was the one who came in and said, I have no plans on moving. Oklahoma City, get that arena ready. And then, like a thief in the night, knew that they were not going to renovate then Key Arena. And was like, well, we don't have a good enough arena. We're leaving. And David Stern at the time was like, all right, we can't stop this from happening, but we can't have this happen again. So they put in some parameters in the league. And those parameters, ironically enough, have made it very hard for Seattle to steal the Sacramento Kings. Because it looked like, remember Sacramento a handful of years ago, remember when they were going to go to Anaheim?
Mm-hmm.
The Maloofs.
We're trying.
So they were going to go to Anaheim, and they're like, no. And then their Sacramento was like, okay, well, we're going to go to Seattle. And Seattle was fighting, like, do we renovate Key Arena? Do we build a new arena down in Soto? That's where Lumen Field and T-Mobile, even though it's still CenturyLink and Safeco to me. And they had the whole thing with, like, they're fighting with the port of Seattle. They had the land, but there was a street. They needed the street vacated. It was a whole thing. It was, trust me, I talked about it so much about street vacation.
So I got a question for you, Justin.
But ultimately, they got Bezos to redo Key Arena. They got an NHL team, so they've got the Kraken. I have not been to Climate Pledge Arena, but I hear it is state of the art, and it's exactly what you need. And so finally, the hoops have been jumped through by Seattle. But that was one of the biggest problems for a long time was they were a victim of their own, or they were victimized twice. One stole the team, and then they couldn't steal another team because they're like, well, we can't have that happen again. And then there was the whole arena thing. So I think Nashville would be on the table, I would imagine. Where else would you go?
So there are, I said,
Pittsburgh?
I want to play an interesting game with you, Justin. So there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3 cities in America that do not currently have an NBA team and are top 10 in the United States in population.
Oh.
And I'd like you to
guess.
This
is a fun game.
I'd like you to guess which I'll give
3.
you.
There's only 3.
They're in distinct, one on the West Coast, one in the middle of America.
Well, Seattle.
No.
Or Seattle.
Population. Pure population here. It's kind of
So San Diego.
Yes, San Diego leads the way. 1.4 million.
Now the San Diego Clippers were a thing, and then they became the LA Clippers. I don't know. I love San Diego. I was just in San Diego. I was just down there. It's beautiful. My apologies to any fans of the great city of Seattle, founded by the Germans. I wonder if it's too nice.
Seattle's being too nice?
San Diego.
Oh, gotcha. San Diego.
Like, do you want to go to this basketball game inside? Why?
Well,
It's beautiful.
Miami Heat say hold my beer, Justin.
Yeah, but the Miami Heat, there's a lot of empty seats sometimes at Miami
true.
Heat.
You're absolutely right.
So you got San Diego.
San Diego. Two more.
I got two more.
One Middle America, one East Coast. And both without an NBA team.
St. Louis?
On the right track, but no.
Kansas City?
No.
All right, so the state of Missouri is now out. Boy, continuing in.
Give you a hint. One of these teams has an NFL team. Which I was surprised.
Pittsburgh?
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville is that big?
Yep, Jacksonville.
You could have given me 50 more guesses.
Right.
I wouldn't have gotten to Jacksonville. Well, I guess 30 guesses because I would have went through the NFL teams.
But no, Jacksonville and Austin, Texas are both tied.
Yeah, I don't think Texas gets another team.
That's why Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
They've already got 3. Like the great state of, and I love the great state of Texas.
I wouldn't think so.
Hey, don't mess with Texas, but I don't think they can't get 4 teams, right?
And that would be, how many would that be for Florida? Say they gave one to Jacksonville. That would,
3. You got Miami, Orlando.
So that wouldn't be
and Jacksonville. You've already got 3 in Texas.
Yeah, with how big of a state Florida is, it wouldn't be that shocking. But like Justin says, nobody really, well, I don't want to paint with a broad brush because I've never been. I don't know if many people go to the Orlando Magic games.
I mean, I think like anywhere else in this country, you're good. Like Paolo Banchero, they start turning around. Everybody's going to go to Magic games.
That's true.
People are going to start going. People like winning basketball. It's just like people aren't like.
Just for
the Blazers are having trouble with, putting people in the arenas because they're trying to lose. Now, eventually they're going to win, and all of us are going to be like, yeah, Tuesday night, let's go to the Blazer game.
Right. And I think it's fascinating, too, is just to wrap up my thought on this list, Justin, as I'm looking at it. Other than suburbs, which don't really count, like Fort Worth is up here, San Jose is up here, Columbus, right, Charlotte, Indianapolis, you really have to get all the way down to Nashville, which is 21st, as you mentioned.
But that's going to go because Nashville keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Other than that, every major city has an NBA team, which is kind of interesting. So do you have to start looking
about, but you think about
internationally.
St. Louis, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, right? Those kind of Midwest cities. And is there an appetite? Is there an appetite for the NBA market? I don't know. And again, Adam Silver talked about Canada. Like, we tried this in Canada. We tried it in Vancouver. It didn't work. How crazy was that there was a time that we had Portland, Seattle, and Vancouver, right?
The greatest I-5 rivalry, baby.
Dude, and it's like the Pacific. We were popping back then.
Vancouver.
There was no talk back then of like, oh, small markets can't win. And then nobody went to the Vancouver Grizzly games. Now, maybe the demographics have shifted. I don't know. Maybe some things have changed. But I guess maybe like Montreal. Does Montreal want a basketball team?
So for what it's worth, Justin,
I know Montreal speaks mostly French, and boy, there's a lot of French players both in the NBA and on the way.
Yeah,
I feel like the next 5 great prospects in the NBA are all French.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Toronto leads the way with 6 million people, but Montreal has 3. Vancouver, for what it's worth, Justin, really hasn't grown a whole bunch. It's kind of been about the same. So
they had their NBA team.
I don't know if there's any appetite.
And that's why we have to pretend there are Grizzly Bears in Memphis, and there's not unless they're at the zoo. All right, we've got Make or Miss coming up next. Before we get to that, I do want to tell you about the good folks at Toyota and us here at iHeartRadio. We need your help. We're asking for it. We need your help filling the truck with canned and non-perishable food items to benefit the Oregon Food Bank. Bring your donations and look for the specially marked Toyota Tundra at 2 different Fred Meyer locations. Tomorrow, that's June the 8th, in Roseburg. That's right. If you're heading down to my old hometown and to my old Fred Meyer in Roseburg, that's my Fred Meyer. Noon to 2 tomorrow, or maybe further south on Sunday down in Josephine County, Grants Pass from noon to 2 as well. That's June the 9th. Look for those specially marked Toyota Tundras. And while you're there, enter to win a trip for 2 to the iHeartRadio Music Festival in Las Vegas. Go to the events page at ripcityradio.com for a complete list of dates and locations. Join us at Fred Meyer as we fill the truck for the Oregon Food Bank. Make or miss next, 620 Rip City Radio. 1 hour from now, we're going to talk to the voice of the Oregon State Beavers. Is Mike Parker in Lexington?
Live from Lexington,
Live
baby.
from the Super Regional site for tomorrow's matchup.
I heard it's a lot less hot than where your team will be playing.
Yeah, Texas A&M is going to be it's going to be a scorcher. They're getting underway very, very early. Well, I guess it's 11 o'clock our time. So are they Mountain or are they Central? I think they're Central. So it's going to be 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Oh, boy.
Heat of the day, man.
Sixth inning's going to be rough. Going to be rough, boys.
Tell Uncle Phil to send down some extra water coolers.
You know what's funny? There was a time, and again, this was like peak Oregon hubris. All right, peak Oregon hubris. Oregon, what year was this? 2003, I want to say. 2003, Oregon was playing, I believe, the opening game. If not week 1, it was week 2. And they were playing at Mississippi State. And so they were going, because Mississippi State played at Autzen in 2002. It was the first game. I think the new expanded stadium. It was great. And then the next year, Oregon went down to Starkville, Mississippi, to take on the Mississippi State Bulldogs. And even though it was a night game, anybody that's ever been to the South knows that at night it's actually kind of worse because the humidity just kind of sits there and there's no sun to burn it off. So Oregon was, at the time, this was right in the highlighter. They wore these highlighter yellow uniforms and they were trying to figure out any way, shape, or form. So they created these undershirts. If you remember this, they created these undershirts. Now, the story that got reported is not exactly what happened. The story that reported was that Oregon was going to be wearing cooling shirts under, like they were refrigerated or something. And so and then it became a big deal. And is this unfair? Is this an unfair advantage? Is Nike creating a refrigerator shirt? That was what was being reported. Because again, this is 2003. I think MySpace was in our lives, but I'm not positive.
So we were all friends with Tom.
We were all friends with Tom. We were ranking our other friends, but
come to my wall, Justin, and play my music.
Facebook was not available to non-college students. And
it was just for Zuck.
YouTube wasn't a thing.
No.
It was just good old-fashioned rumor mills. Well, the thing was, what they did was they created these shirts that were just like the normal, undershirts that you would wear. But, Brendan, you know this because I bet old Grandpa Slaughter has got an air compressor somewhere. And I know that Grandpa Slaughter listens to every show. Grandpa Slaughter, text him and tell Brendan if you have an air compressor. But anybody that's ever worked,
yeah, I'm pretty sure.
If I don't know your grandpa, but I'm betting if he
pretty good
from everything you've told me about, I bet he's got an air compressor.
Yeah, pretty good bet. I think Dad might have one too. So there you go.
So you get like this, and usually they're used for nail guns. But an air compressor, if you know anything about them, because it's compressed air, everything that comes out of it is cold. It could be 104 degrees. You hit that air compressor because of the way it always comes out cold. So what Oregon did was they had these shirts and they were supposed to and they had this little nozzle that you would hook the air compressor to. And then you just get a little hit of air compressor. And it was like a nice hit of cold air on the inside as opposed to just the misters on the outside. But that got out to Oregon's wearing refrigerated shirts like they were plugged in and there was a bad what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, it's going to be hot at Texas A&M.
Hot. Kentucky's going to be pretty warm, but not nearly as bad. A little bit more humid. So, it's, as Justin and I love to say, it's the other side of the rub. It's like we love to say, when Arizona teams come up here and play our football team in December.
Oh, it's the best.
It's
the best.
Yeah, it's a huge advantage for us. Now, counterintuitively, I know you, Justin, your baseball team hasn't been around for as long as Oregon State's has recently, but I can't tell you how many times where it's like, yep, them boys from the Pacific Northwest go into the deep, humid South and look a little sluggish.
What do you think? We're going to get to make or miss here in a moment because you've worked hard on it, and I don't want to filibuster the entire thing. But what do you think is harder? Cold weather to warm weather or warm weather to cold weather? I think
That's tough.
I think specifically in baseball, I think warm weather to cold weather has got to be harder.
Okay,
It's got to be harder.
Yeah, you played, so I
Here's-
give you the benefit of the doubt there.
Hot is hot, and I get it. Neither is ideal, but when you are freezing cold and you are not used to it, and you take a fastball off the hands,
It hurts like no other.
so bad.
So it
hurts.
doesn't hurt as much when it's like 80 or 90?
I don't know if it does. Maybe it just doesn't feel like it hurts as much.
You played summer baseball, so you obviously probably know what it was like to play in some hotter temperatures, and you probably played in some colder temperatures.
I've played in everything. I have played in hail, and I have played over 100 degrees, all in the great state of Oregon.
There you go.
Playing on the coast. Ugh.
Yep. Yep.
Coos Bay in March. It's a hailstorm. It's like, I think we can get this in. But I think going from cold to warm, because if you are a Pacific Northwest kid or somebody that plays, you want to play in short sleeves. Oh, you're looking so forward to playing in short sleeves. Now, 97 and 60% humidity or whatever it's going to be, maybe not that pumped up about it, but I think it's easier to go from cold to hot than hot to cold. Because I think you could you could simulate it a little bit too, right? You go into whether it's the Mo Center, or I think they have the Hidden Complex there at PK Park. What's the indoor practice facility in Corvallis?
Oh, the Truax Center.
The Truax Center. You get in there, you can crank up the heat. You can't go practice in a refrigerator.
It's true.
So I think going cold to hot is easier.
It's well, either way. Well, Justin will be keeping an eye on his Ducks tomorrow.
Yeah.
Again, they got the heat advisory now for the Texas.
Does Texas just the Memorial Day happens in the entire state of Texas? Just we're all on a heat advisory.
Oh, it's so
we're
hot.
just
yeah. I remember when I went down
everybody tells everybody to hydrate.
Yeah.
That was one thing when I went to Texas. Everybody was like, "Oh, you're from out of town. Drink water."
When did you go? What time of year?
2017.
What time of year? I meant
August.
Okay, yeah, that's
Heart of it.
Yep, I went in April.
Where you
and I'm
from?
like, yeah, it's starting to get warm.
Not here. Drink water. They would here. Have one. Have another. Everybody.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, let's get to make or miss.
All right, before we get into make or miss, Justin said something during that last stretch that I just had to appease for a brief moment. Justin, the kids these days will never know the great feeling of when you changed your song on your MySpace wall and you clicked into your profile and your profile song starts playing. Justin, you felt like $1 million. So that's my MySpace history lesson. It was awesome.
Also, and again, there's a hit and a miss. There's a strike and a gutter. Every rose has its thorn, right? We learned about all of this. MySpace was the same. There was when you found dude, this was the height of Justified Timberlake era. So dude, when you put a new, and again, we were stealing everything off of the internet back then, but you still didn't know what the singles were, right? They were still determined by radio and the record companies. It wasn't like Spotify and Apple Music where they just drop a whole album. But man, when if you were the first one to throw that Timberlake banger out there, you're like, oh. And then the ultimate joy of maybe a cute girl putting you in their top 4, top 8. Boy, that felt good.
Oh, it did.
Then you get dropped out, and it's like, this is the worst. I hate the world.
You think, Tom, are the people from MySpace rich still, Justin, or has it been so long? And
I think they're rich because I think they sold it to Yahoo?
News Corp. 2005 for only $500 million. I say only because nowadays that's low.
Yeah, but they were on their way down. They were done.
Very
they were
much
done.
so. And I don't know if MySpace
they were selling that. They were selling that Ford Explorer right before wheels are about ready to fall off.
MySpace still exists, but I don't know very many people that are on it anymore.
Nah.
I mean, it just.
Are we to a point now?
It had its moment, man.
Are we to a point now, Brendan, where it's nostalgic and you could bring it back?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Could you bring back MySpace as a nostalgia?
You could.
And
I think
as
so.
an adult, start ranking your friends?
I mean,
as a
cool.
44-year-old man, should I rank my friends? It would be based off of totally different things.
So, yeah, I didn't. And actually, Justin.
I'm going to be hanging out with some friends this weekend. I might float this idea out there. Do we need to bring back retro MySpace and we all start ranking each other once again?
We might. So, and just for your timeline, for sake of the nostalgia, it peaked in April of 2008. Crazy year. 115 million users. But then MySpace started along. It's been sold 4 times since then, including once to Justin Timberlake. Kinda
I
funny.
remember he was going to turn it into like a music thing. Like
Yeah,
he was going to try to compete with, what was the Jay-Z music thing?
Was it Rock Nation?
Vault?
Or Vault, maybe? Yeah, that does sound
What is it called?
Yeah.
It didn't work.
Yeah, no.
Turns out, you can't beat Spotify and Apple. They got you beat.
Been sold 3-4 different times. So I'm surprised.
Yeah, because Timberlake was going to turn it into like that. This was the new music place.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we already got YouTube. YouTube already exists.
Dude, Zuckerberg just like came in and said, move aside MySpace. And he's owned it for what? Since May of 2008. That's what? Doing the math. That's 16 years?
Yeah.
That Facebook has been king? I mean, Facebook kind of...
It still is,
because
by
they
the
own
way.
Instagram. So yes, Facebook
But
is
even
king.
more than that, and all the kids were like, Facebook, boomer. Yeah, but still everybody's on it. It's still the biggest platform on the internet.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's massive. But anywho, let's go ahead and open up.
But yeah, Make. It's the best when you could throw a Nelly Furtado. Throw that banger on there. Whew. Good times.
Good times, man.
Good times.
All right, let's start with a make or miss, Justin, that I don't know many years ago we would have ever said, but let's put it in the universe. I'm curious what your thoughts are. Oregon State and Oregon will make Omaha.
I want to.
Will you put it in the universe in the last?
All right, let's do it. Let's put it in the
Pac-12
universe.
season?
That's amazing. What a great way to send off, because I don't know if they're ever going to play each other again. There might be some bad blood,
some non-conference stuff, but
you think maybe a Tuesday matchup, but I don't know, right? If you're Oregon State, you're like, when are we going to play you? Because they're going to be going independent, and so Oregon State, I would assume next year. Now, we don't know the schedule, but it'll come.
They're
out.
going to be in the South for probably.
They are going to be running through California, Arizona,
yes.
Texas, Florida,
yep.
Right, all throughout
February, March, probably.
Yeah, hopefully they're all doing online classes because pack up your dorm room. You're not going to see it for a while. So I don't know when and then by the time you would get back to being able to play against Oregon's going to be in the midst of Big Ten baseball, right? You're going to be traveling to, Nebraska and
that series might be done.
Ohio. It might be.
It could be.
Sad.
I mean, it could be.
How awesome would it be if, in fact, this is maybe one of the last they meet up in Omaha, like they play each other? It would be so. I know there's bad blood between the two schools right now about everything that happened with the Pac-12, and I understand it. But even the most angry Beaver believer still got to recognize that would be kind of cool.
It would
It would still be kind of cool.
Again, I'm absolutely
Need a couple of big wins for both programs to make it happen, but that would be pretty cool to have both of them in Omaha.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's one of those things where the bracket is already set. It's entirely possible that if they were to both make it, they would be
on the same side?
Yeah, they'd be on a collision course. So that being said, Kentucky's a really good team. Texas A&M's a really good team. There's a reason the Beavers and Ducks are not hosting at PK or Goss.
Texas A&M's, they were a seeded team, right?
Yeah, so A&M was, I think, the 3 seed. Kentucky was the 2. So
they're the number 2 team in the country? Kentucky was?
Number 2 seed, yeah.
Well, they seed top 8.
Yes, so they were.
So they were technically the number 2 team in the country.
They were.
Who's number 1, Tennessee?
Yes.
Tennessee's
been a wagon this year.
Tennessee's coach is such a... Can't say the name of it. I kind of like it, though.
I get you. I feel you.
Starts with an A. You know what I'm saying?
I do. I do. Yeah.
So I can't say it on the air. It's also 7:30. If we don't say that word in polite company, we'll wait till 9 o'clock to start talking like sailors. But Tennessee's coach he's that, and I actually kind of like it.
But you will, Justin.
It's because I played for those guys, too.
Yeah, you will tell me, though, and we had this conversation when we previewed the matchup, Beavers and Kentucky, on our podcast. Check it out, beaversedge.com. Baseball is maybe, Justin, unlike football, where I don't mean to throw my Beavs under the bus, but it's just reality. If Oregon State plays Georgia 10 times, they're probably going to lose 10 times.
Probably.
If Oregon State baseball plays Tennessee 10 times, they might
6-4.
win.
Might go 6-4. Might go 4-6.
Right. So in baseball, Justin, like again, just for any Duck fan out there who's maybe like, hey, the Ducks are in the postseason, let's check them out. Maybe more casual. Explain to the fans listening at home why baseball's so weird that like all you really need is like one or two good pitching performances, you can get it done.
So everything in baseball in the postseason is pitching depth. That's what it is pitching depth. And when you get to this point in the season, right, if you are like, so the reason why Oregon had so much success against Santa Barbara, they didn't have to use the bullpen. They were able to get, and one guy threw 126 pitches, and everybody freaked out.
He'll be fine. He doesn't play again until Saturday. No biggie.
He'll be fine. But was it Jonas Knox? Was that the Beaver guy? Who was the guy that threw a ton for the Beavs?
Oh, and Kevin Abel.
Kevin Abel.
When he threw in Omaha, yeah.
Sorry, Kevin.
I know. He got his ring, though. I think he appreciates it.
But everything is pitching depth. And if you get to a point where, even if you're like Texas A&M, if you can chase their starters out and make them use their bullpen, and then you get to a point where maybe you're in a game 3. This is what happened to Oregon last year. Oregon had Oral Roberts on the ropes, ran out of pitchers. And they just didn't have, they ran out of pitchers. Everybody at this level can hit. Everybody. It all comes down to the quality of your pitchers, the depth of your pitchers. And so if, in fact, in game 1, even if you lose, but if you can chase their starter, you can make them burn 2 or 3 relief pitchers. By the time you get to game 2 or game 3, if that pitching staff is depleted, all of a sudden it's a whole new ballgame. It'd be like going, like you mentioned, all right, so you're playing a top 5 team, but after the first quarter, they don't get their quarterback anymore. And they got to bring in their backup. And then they got to bring in their third-string guy. You're going to have a whole lot bigger chance at success. So everything is pitching depth. Like, especially at this point where it's tournament baseball. Now, it's a little bit easier in the super regionals because it's at most a 3-game series, as opposed to maybe having to play 5 games like in a regional. But even still, if you don't have the arms by game 3, if necessary, it doesn't matter how good you are. That's how good your team is as your weakest pitcher on the mound.
Yeah, and baseball is, again, you summed it up perfectly, and that's
Boom.
exactly like, it's unpredictable. It's not like you can settle in for the college football playoff and you're looking at Alabama and Cincinnati going, yeah, a lot of things are really going to have to break Cincinnati's way for this to be, it's different. That being said,
also, you run into a hot pitcher too.
Right.
Like you just catch a guy. Like maybe the guy has the game of his life.
Yeah, and that just happens.
That can happen as well. And all of a sudden, you're like,
yeah, and
we're in trouble.
Yeah, and real quick, nothing that necessarily relates to us, but something I wanted to throw out there, Justin. You look at the top 16 teams that are left in the baseball postseason. A lot of the usual suspects. Some new faces like Oregon and some others. But have you heard the story of the 1-4 seed who's playing Tennessee? This is the Cinderella of college baseball.
The Dallas Baptist?
The Evansville Aces.
Evansville Aces, yeah.
Yeah, they have coming from a first time they've ever won a regional, and they come from a private. Let's see here. I just gotta make sure I get this right. Private Methodist university that has barely 2,000 students.
Mm-hmm. They've had
that's kind of cool.
I've heard of Evansville before in baseball. Like they've had a pretty decent, I knew like same thing with like Oral Roberts.
Sure. Yeah.
Like Dallas Baptist. There's these schools that you don't ever think of, and every once in a while they get a couple of baseball guys.
Kind of cool to see a 4 seed and a little 1 Cinderella.
It is kind of cool. Tennessee's going to smoke.
I'm sure they will. But yes, let's go ahead and move on. But nevertheless, folks, you heard it here first. Justin moved in and called it Omaha.
There we go. All right, coming up next. We have got a Hot Take Friday. Mike Parker's going to be joining us in hour number 3. So all that coming up. But before we get to that, I do, once again, want to tell you about the good folks at DeBella. That's right. They're Oregon's home improvement experts specializing in roofing, siding, windows, bathroom renovations. Summer's here. That's the perfect time to take care of projects around the home. DeBella's going to come to you on your schedule, provide you with a free estimate, easy, trustworthy, 15,000 five-star reviews on Google for DeBella's excellent work and a fantastic financing promotion. No payments until 2025 on approved credit. So connect with DeBella today for your roofing, siding, windows, and bath projects. DeBella is Oregon's home improvement expert. By the way, going back to something we talked about last segment, I wanted to make sure I was right. And let me tell you, Brendan, the old memory bank still open for business.
What you got?
So I went back and I looked at the article. This is from August 26, 2003, Starkville, Mississippi. Mississippi coach Jackie Sherrill is miffed that Nike has provided Oregon with experimental cooling vests the Ducks might be using on Saturday to help them stay cool when they play the Bulldogs in what figures to be warm and humid conditions. Jackie Sherrill was upset. He was like, how?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's why it was his last year in Mississippi State.
I think also I'm going to go on a limb. I think I won like 4 games that year.
They were not good.
They were supposed to be good. They were not.
2-10 that year.
2-10. I doubled their win total.
Close game against Oregon, though, for what it's worth.
What was the final in that game?
42-34. So,
right.
For what it's worth, for Oregon, obviously, but pretty close. I mean, not bad.
But yeah, he was like, because they were a Nike school, and he was like, how come Oregon gets these and we don't get them? But it's like,
I wonder.
Are you new here, dude? Which, again, kind of shows the difference in SEC versus, like, all the Pac-12 schools, especially Oregon State, and even Washington. When Washington used to be a Nike school, they're like, yeah, Oregon's going to get all the stuff. And we'll get it next year, but they're going to get all the stuff first. And that's just what goes on. We don't bite the hand that feeds. It's still pretty nice being a Nike school, so we're not Mississippi State. Well, why can't we have them? And so Nike was like, fine, here you go. And they sent him on like Friday, and he's like, well, we can't use them on Fridays.
Excuses.
What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. All right. It is that time of the week. A lot of people like to look down their nose at hot takes. And even some of us on this show, Brendan and myself, go like, boy, what a hot take that was. But you know what? This whole industry, this whole business, this thing that we like to call sports talk, it was built on hot takes. Without hot takes, what do we have? We don't have much. So we like to embrace it. Passionate arguments about dumb things. It is now time for Hot Take Friday. Here we go. All right. This goes back to our gas station conversation we had yesterday, where we talked about some of the things that, like, when you walk in, much like on the Pawn Stars. You ever watch the Pawn Stars? I love the Pawn Stars, but like Shark Tank, they got a little bit predictable. I was like, I get it, but the Pawn Stars, it was always like, I got a buddy, he's an expert, he can come in, he can tell you if it's real or not, and it's like I kind of feel that way about gas station convenience stores. You walk in and you're like, I can tell you right away if this is going to be a quality gas station convenience store or it's not. But let's get into some convenience store hot takes. Hot take. We don't give enough love to pepperoni sticks. We talk about beef jerky a lot. We talk about snack mix a lot. Hot take, we need to show more love to pepperoni sticks. Pepperoni sticks need to get back into our lives. Brendan, I don't know about you when you were growing up. Maybe this is just a Southern Oregon thing. Just like we used to with the world's finest chocolate. Did you ever sell the world's finest chocolate as a fundraiser?
I remember that, yeah.
Just like we would sell the world's finest chocolate. No, we still don't have word on if it was in fact the world's finest chocolate. Nobody really challenged it, but we would sell that. We would also sell coupon books. But the other thing we used to sell as a fundraiser, pepperoni sticks. Pepperoni sticks used to be a staple in our lives. When's the last time you had a good old pepperoni stick? Would you even want to try a pepperoni stick?
Oh, yeah. No, they're a good summer go-to.
They're so good.
For floating. These are really easy just to throw in the cooler.
But we used to go around and that world's finest chocolate, coupon book or card, pepperoni sticks. And, you know, I don't think pepperoni sticks get enough. We need more pepperoni sticks in our lives. And I'm going to start with myself.
But no, I like them.
I'm going to go get a pepperoni stick this weekend.
Okay.
Somehow,
there you go.
somewhere.
Yeah, make it happen, Captain.
Sure, my wife's going to love it. I'm going to stink up the car with a pepperoni stick. Not her favorite. Definitely my favorite.
Yeah, no, pepperoni sticks
We're
are
going
solid.
wine tasting this weekend, and I
Nice.
think the perfect accommodation with some beautiful wine.
Where are you going?
Hawksview Winery.
Is that out by my neck of the woods?
Close to your neck of the woods. What's the really, like, if you go down the 99,
Yep,
right?
the 99, I love it.
Is it Beef Bend?
Yes.
Go on the Beef Bend.
Okay.
And what's the big giant like nursery out there?
Oh, that's Al's Garden Center.
Boom, Al's.
Yeah.
It's right by there.
Oh, wow. I could almost throw a rock at you. It's like really close.
All right, so that's where
quite
I'm
close.
going to be. I'll be at the Hawksview. I'll be enjoying some some delicious Hawksview wine.
He'll be in the upper Mid-Willamette Valley. Folks.
Hey, now.
So-
And on the way back, I might buy a pepperoni stick.
There you go, man. You could have a little, that's not uncommon. You go out, have some drinks, and you want some grub afterwards, man. Why do you think bars have late night food?
I mean, I don't know what a pepperoni stick would pair with, but I'm sure I'm going to make it happen.
But yeah, those wineries and stuff, they have like, I know it's like, I've never actually been wine tasting. I know it's kind of, fine and done, but like you can get like charcuterie boards and stuff, right?
Oh, yeah. You
Yeah.
can get yourself a charcuterie board, yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, now,
So
that would
there
be
was
me, dude.
there was an episode of Hard Knocks where the one guy, because it is a charcuterie board, you're right, but the guy, I think it was defensive lineman for the New York Jets, called it a charcuterie board, and that's all. Now I can't not call it that.
That's pretty good.
So
Better than just going, that's the cheese plate, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
you could just go, hey, can I have the cheese plate?
So charcuterie board, flatbreads, yeah.
Yum.
But on top of that, I might snap into a Slim Jim. I don't know.
There you go.
I
right?
don't know.
That's, I appreciate
I
it.
might get a. They used to call them bull whips.
Yeah.
Did you have a? Probably Newburgh.
I don't think so.
From Sherwood maybe to the coast. I'll bet you find a convenience store that had a thing called a bull whip, which they used to be like the container for the bull. It was 3 feet long.
Yeah.
And it would be in a spiral.
Oh, wow.
And it was. I remember it as a 3 foot long pepperoni stick known as the bull whip. Yeah. Right next to the.
Speaking of
right next to the Hot Mama hard-boiled eggs in the whatever spicy
and the
brine.
Do you remember the Hot Mama pickles that were in the big jar, and the pickles are like this tall?
Yeah, so you had the pickles, and the next one was the eggs.
Yes.
And you would just now they had tongs, but I think a lot of people just use their hands.
Oh, just reached out and grabbed
different
them.
time, different place, but you get yourself a Bull Whip, you get yourself a Hot Mama's.
That's awesome.
Dude, you are living the dream, my friend. Living the dream. You got a hot take for
I
us
do.
in about 35 seconds?
Yeah, so hot take, Justin. Graduations are becoming a little too inconvenient to attend.
They always have been. I'm going to say that right now. They always
hot
have
take.
been.
I don't know how to say this kindly because I'm
Say it.
very happy for my
With your
brother
chest.
attending. But Justin, it is such a nightmare to get to Sherwood's graduation tonight. We are Ubering from our house. It's less than a mile. So
I'm glad that because I'm going through that to drink some wine tomorrow. No graduations tomorrow.
no, you're good. It'll just be
Okay.
tonight where it's a crazy, lot of parking, a lot of cars. And so I said, let's break it up into 2 nights, A through M, M through Z. Do it.
Or just, let's just, not all the virtual things were bad. Maybe just do it
I
virtual.
am with it, man. I'm with it.
All right. It's not virtual. Hour number 3. It's real life in real time, and it comes up next, 620 Rip City Radio. It is 8 a.m. on a Friday morning. Justin Myers with you. NBA Finals saw the Boston Celtics take Game 1 over the Dallas Mavericks. 107-89, 6. Count them, 6. Boston Celtics were in double figures in scoring. 20 points off the bench for Kristaps Porzingis, who makes his first postseason appearance since round 1. In other NBA news, the Los Angeles Lakers and UConn head coach Dan Hurley set to meet today, according to Brian Windhorst of ESPN. Lakers look to make a full-court press to get the Dan Hurley deal done as soon as possible. Oregon State heading to the Super Regionals this weekend. The Ducks are in College Station, Texas, to take on the Texas A&M Aggies. 11 a.m. first pitch on Saturday, and Oregon State will be facing the Kentucky Wildcats in Lexington. They get underway at 3 o'clock. The man who will be on the call in Lexington is Mike Parker. He's the voice of your Oregon State Beavers. He joins us in 20 minutes. But Hour 3 of RCM starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. As I just told you in the update, Mike Parker's going to join us live from Lexington, Kentucky. I know it's a couple hours ahead there, but usually when Mike's on the road, we usually get him in one of his famous early morning strolls. The man loves a good brisk walk before getting the day underway, and so get his thoughts of the lay of the land there in Kentucky, the mindset of this Oregon State team. How much pressure is on the Beavs this weekend? Because, again, it's a different world, I think, when you are a program at a school where people really, really care about it, right? There is, I would say, far less pressure on Oregon. Yes, Oregon fans want to see the Ducks go to the College World Series, but Oregon fans, and I say this as one, if we're being completely honest, we are far more looking forward to 85 days from now to the opening of college football season and a future Big Ten schedule, and Ohio State's coming to Autzen Stadium. Like that's what's on the agenda for most Oregon fans. This is kind of a fun little afterthought. It's not to diminish, it's just the reality. Oregon State's in a completely different boat. Not only do you have the pressures of a fan base who has decided, and for good reasons, a lot of success went along with this, but the good people of Corvallis and surrounding areas, the Beaver believers that Brendan talked to each and every day, they made a decision in the mid-2000s, like, we're taking baseball serious. We're taking baseball serious. We are going to show up, and we are going to invest emotionally, financially, and physically by showing up in baseball. Baseball is going to be our thing. And especially doubled down when Oregon came into the mix and tried to buy themselves into the College World Series. Hasn't happened yet. Still waiting on that one, but they definitely did.
It's one of those things where I would say there is.
Do you at least appreciate the fact that I, as an Oregon fan, Brendan, can come to you as an Oregon State fan and be like, look, here's the deal. Oregon State went to 3 College World Series in a row, and Oregon decided we want to do that too, and tried to buy their way in. I can at least admit that. There are plenty of Oregon fans like, boy, one had nothing to do with the other. It's like, I don't know if that jives. They tried to buy themselves in, and they weren't able to do it.
It's appreciative because as a kid, that's what
everybody knew.
Like as a kid, that's what we were told, right? It was like, oh, Oregon's getting a baseball team because Oregon State.
It was 100%. By the way, I don't know, but I know it was 100%.
Right.
It was 100%. Well, and also, it was a time. Here's what you got to understand about Phil Knight, or at least I don't know. I've met Phil Knight in passing. But I've never got a chance to sit down and talk with the man. But from everything I have heard is that Phil Knight was always, look, Nike, biggest, best, most innovative. He wanted the Oregon athletic department to look like that of Texas. Texas was always kind of his model. Texas, if you look at it, is kind of good at everything, right? They're like swimming and diving. Hey, the Texas Longhorns. Women's College World Series, Oklahoma just won their 4th in a row. Who did they beat, though? They beat Texas. Texas is good at softball. Mike White stole him away. But
Texas is good at everything, man.
That was what Phil Knight's ultimate goal was for the Oregon athletic department, not just to be good at football and basketball and track and field, but to be good at everything. And then So part of it is like, oh, that school's good at that. Well, we're going to start doing that now. You notice like Oregon's golf team got a little bit better over the last couple of years. Oregon's obviously track and field was always there. So women's soccer, like women's soccer got a new facility, right? All of this stuff started happening, and then all of a sudden, a funny thing happened on the way to Omaha in 2005 and 2006 and 2007, and Oregon State's there every single year, and they're back-to-back national champs. And it was like, how can we have a complete athletic department that competes in every sport at a high level if we don't have a baseball program? But if Oregon State never makes that run, I don't know. I don't know if PK Park is now. It might be in existence, but it certainly fast-tracked that decision. It certainly did.
Yeah, and I think like when you look at
it,
there
would definitely no way Oregon would go into the Big Ten
without a baseball team.
Right,
and that's it's funny we look at it, and I know football drives the bus, and baseball is kind of the afterthought in the grand scheme of the money, Justin. But it was funny because someone mentioned the other day, they're like, Big 12 has a solid baseball culture too. And Colorado brings nothing. So, it's kind of unique.
Colorado's going to have some problems in the Big 12.
Yeah, it's kind of unique that Colorado's the only team that doesn't have a baseball team. And imagine all these last couple years if, you were looking at Oregon going, they don't have one either. So that, I think, ultimately was probably the best decision for them. Now, they kind of learned. You can't copy and paste.
Or write check after check. Yeah, there's more to it than that.
Yeah, and to your point, I think they finally got, they tried to hire, the elite coach, and I think they finally got a really good one in Wazakowski. But back to your original point, I do think there is a good amount of pressure on Oregon State, Justin, because it's been 6 years. And 6 years between Omaha appearances, that's pushing the line of what Beaver fans expect. And
I know, even though it's so hard.
I know.
It's so hard to get to Omaha, but
it is.
Let me ask you this, though. And I'm not meaning this mean-spirited. I'm truly am not. But, is there also a little bit of, because, there is so much uncertainty laying ahead to where it's like, man, if we just get to Omaha, that's going to ease ease that uncertainty, that anxiety of an athletic department of hey, we still have this.
Without a doubt.
And this is what we care about. This is what we, obviously, like you said, football does drive the bus. But if you were to go and ask average Joe Oregon State fan, you get one of these. Football can put you in a major conference, but you'll never win a super regional ever again. Or you can go to Omaha, but you're never going to play football in a major conference. What would they choose? Obviously, that's not how sports works, but Genie comes out of the bottle and says, hey, Beaver Believer, here's the deal. I can grant you this one wish. It comes with some parameters. I can get you in the Big 12, but it's going to cost you never going to Omaha ever again in baseball. Will you take the deal? The fact that you're hemming and hawing about it says exactly what I needed to know about Oregon State baseball fans and Oregon State baseball culture.
It seems cliche, Justin, but it just means more to us. No, it's, obviously, I think there are still, at the end of the day, more Beaver football fans than there are Beaver baseball fans, I think.
Well, just sheer numbers. You look at one stadium, you look at the other. It tells you right there, capacity and everything else.
If you were to put a straight up, election season, Beaver fans vote, right?
I know.
Bet it would be closer than you think. But
know. I think it would be incredibly close.
But yeah, I do think that ultimately, the Big 12 would be pretty cool. Not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. But back to this, you're right, Justin.
But yeah, that's what I'm wondering. There's a lot, kind of on the line of a program, like you said, that hasn't been to Omaha in 8 years. On top of that, you got the whole, Mitch Canham needs to Mitch Canham needs a run to Omaha on his own.
Yeah, he's never been.
Doesn't need it, but it would be nice.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have all this uncertainty heading into this summer because it still doesn't feel real.
It goes back to
I know there's a Mountain West-ish schedule and a Pac-2 and lawsuits and everything else, but that almost seems like that's future Oregon State fan problem, but
bit.
It's it's getting closer and closer, and I just want, I run to Omaha.
Yeah,
I just wonder if the players feel that pressure.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think it's to an extent, yes, because I think it's deep, Justin, where it's you look at it, and there are some Beaver fans right now that look at it and go, well, we were on track to a good football season before our coach, dipped out and started, making false statements to the media. So that was that. Then get, iron rolled in the Sun Bowl and, lose Damian Martinez. So all that negative, okay? Then you're like, hey, we got an Elite Eight women's basketball team.
Women's basketball program.
This is fun.
Scott Rule's not going anywhere.
Then that entire
that
entire team leaves.
Entire team leaves.
So now you're to the point where, and again,
didn't like a whole softball team leave too?
Pretty much. Basketball team, we know what it is with Wayne Tinkle. So you're at the point now where it's like Oregon State, Justin, very much like the Adley years. They're led by a player who's going to go in the top 3 picks of the draft. Yeah. And I think a lot of Beaver fans are like, give us one good run to Omaha. Not even win. Just go to Omaha.
Just go to Omaha, be a part of it.
And just give us something before we enter into this new mix. And I'd be curious if Mike has kind of that same perspective, but I think there is some pressure on him for sure.
And, well, also I think, I mentioned this with Tyson Alger a couple of days ago, a run to Omaha before this independent schedule. Now, still, a run to the Super Regional is already, that's some money in the bank right there. That helps. But a run to Omaha, that's going to help so much in, I think, scheduling, right? Scheduling, because, Arkansas and Tennessee and Texas A&M and Arizona State and all of these schools in the sunshine in February and March, they're going to want to schedule Oregon State. It's going to help, like, you're coming off of a College World Series appearance. And I think that would help with the scheduling. I don't think they need all that much help. Oregon State's still done enough. In the college baseball world, they still bring weight on the schedule no matter what. But trip to Omaha doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt.
Like you said, next year as an independent, you're going to have to, we joke, but like they're going to have to go on the SEC February and March tour because, independent, like they're not, like as of right now, Justin, who are you playing? Like, at least Washington State's like, hey, we get to play Mountain West guys. Like, Oregon State, they have to fill 50 games or whatever it is.
But I think they'll have an easier time in baseball because they'll actually have flexibility, right? You'll be able to play some legit midweek series, maybe even like back-to-back games, maybe not a 3-game series, but you'll also be able to schedule out February. So you become Gonzaga. You become Gonzaga of college baseball. That's what Gonzaga does. They front load their basketball schedule. They play Kansas and Kentucky and North Carolina in November and December before they kick the dirt out of Portland. You know what I mean? So this is what they do. So I think that's the model is you just, there's still a net rating or RPI in baseball is still around. But you front load it and then
my thing is Oregon State baseball, the one sport they have, Justin, we can close with this, is we'll see. While there are some players who are going to be drafted very high, there are some sophomores who would be coveted by many teams. Is this the Oregon State team that can defer the portal, or do they see guys get stolen and taken? So that's a big, big question mark.
Huge question mark. We won't bring up that with Mike Parker because that's a little down in the dumps. But we will be talking about the optimism and what the Beavs need to do to get themselves back to Omaha, Nebraska, and the College World Series in this Super Regional. Mike Parker joins us next, 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, quick reminder that Rip City Radio, that's us right here. We are keeping the Ticket Tuesday winning streak alive. Exclusive tickets to the Hillsboro Hops all season long. So listen to Rip City Drive each and every Tuesday afternoon for your chance to win, or just go to hillsborohops.com for a chance to win or a chance to buy your own Hops tickets. But Ticket Tuesday all summer long with us here at Rip City Radio and the Hillsboro Hops. Joining us now from Lexington, Kentucky, host of the Super Regional Trip to Omaha on the Line, the voice of the Oregon State Beavers, friend of the program, Mike Parker, back on the big show. Good morning, Mike. How we doing?
Justin, good morning. It's nice to be on with you and young Brendan. We just had a chat about Lexington humidity, which is low today, 72 degrees. And just, it's beautiful. I've never been in this. I've been in Louisville briefly, 2005. Brian Brom threw about 12 touchdown passes, I think. The final score, Louisville 63, the Beavers 27, although we did have an early 10-0 lead. It didn't hold. But that's the only other time I've been in the state of Kentucky was back in 2005, and it's good to be here for baseball for the first time.
Well, I'm glad to hear that the weather is nice. I've been to Lexington once in my life. Went there a handful of years ago for a wedding with my now wife's family. It was July, Mike, and I can't say the same about the humidity. But I'm a guy that runs hot anyway, so I actually kind of liked it because I was looking around at the wedding, seeing everybody else uncomfortable in their suits, and so
right. Well. You know, Justin, I'm looking forward to, speaking of humidity, the thing I miss in my life, it's been 6 years since I've been able to go on a slow jog through Omaha, in and around the environs of the ballpark and across the Missouri River into the state of Iowa and, to Council Bluffs and back and all those sorts of things. And when Rosenblatt used to be up on the hill, I used to start, down at the bottom where all of the hotels, Old Town kind of, and go up the hill. I haven't done that for 6 years. I'm not sure I could drag my 65-year-old body for another attempt at it, but I like the humidity. I'm hoping so here in a few. We're staying. If we win, we're moving on to Omaha. So I'm hoping that that experience is again going to be in my life in a few days.
Well, let's talk about this because I've mentioned this a handful of times on the show, and I realize that college baseball isn't the biggest sport in the world, but it is probably one of the biggest sports on this particular program with Brendan and myself. We both love it. And the thing that I am fascinated by, Mike, and you know this because you've been on plenty of postseason runs with Oregon State, is the difference between the regional round to the super regional round, and then if you are lucky enough to get to Omaha, back to essentially another regional round from a double elimination format to a best 2 out of 3. And just kind of the different phases that you go through in the postseason. And I do think that kind of having some postseason experience matters. Now, I realize none of the players on this team have been to Omaha, but you do have a coaching staff. You do have Mitch Canham there, and you do kind of still have that aura of a program with high expectations. And I do think that's a bit of an advantage for the Beavs heading in this series. Would you say so?
I think so. I think it's helpful in what you alluded to, Mitch, Ryan Gibson, Joey Wong on this staff who played in Omaha and have won national championships. So, I think that does help the guys who, as you said, have never been there. And Kentucky's never been. The Beavers have been 7 times as a program. Kentucky's never been. They're in a position now. Big Blue Nation is going crazy over baseball right now. Everywhere I go, baseball, television, local news, all led with the Kentucky in the Super Regional and hosting for the first time in a Super. They're genuinely excited, and the Beavers are going to be up against a hungry and ravenous fan base, making noise, 7,000 plus. People lining up hours before the game to get in. So I think the Beavers are about to run into a buzzsaw of sorts, not only with how good Kentucky is as a team, but just the expectations from the community. Now, neither the Beavers nor Kentucky, these guys have not been to Omaha, but somehow it feels to me that a coaching staff that's navigated that world, as you allude to, a program that has its DNA, some of it coming from Omaha. I think Kentucky in a situation that the program's never been in before, they may feel the pressure a little bit. If the Beavers can play their game, hit the way they've hit, and with their frontline pitching, when you allude to, the format, with Aiden May and Jacob Komatz, the Beavers Friday and Saturday starters in this thing, they can go up and compete against anybody if those guys are on their game, and they've been on their games down the stretch. So if they keep pitching the way they're capable of, you might be able to get this thing done in 2 and then head off to Omaha again. And I think the home team, with all of the expectations that this is our year, we're finally going to go, the Beavers can put some pressure on them early and maybe take advantage of that.
Not that Goss Stadium isn't a home field advantage, but they do say, like, the SEC, it means more. We hear that about football all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you were seeing, I read an article, like, SEC baseball is growing each and every year. Real baseball in general in college is growing each and every year. And you see a lot of these stadiums are being renovated. And I know there might be some thought of, okay, is this going to be a tough environment? But, Mike, I think if you are a competitor, if you are somebody that wants to play at a high level, you almost welcome it. You would almost welcome playing at a stadium that's going to pack 7,000, 8,000 people into the stadium, excited, raucous, tailgating before, because that's buzz, that's juice, and some energy in the building.
No doubt. And the guys, I think, were carrying themselves here down the stretch with that kind of feeling that you're describing. I mean, just really high energy stuff. When Bazzana hit his home run, I don't know if you saw the video of, the wind kind of helped pushed it back there in the game against UC Irvine on Saturday with his 2-run home run, giving the Beavers the early 2-0 lead. And it was a majestic moment in Travis's great season and career. The ball, he thought, it was so funny to watch the video. Look at it sometime if you get a chance. Social media for Oregon State baseball has posted several different angles of people watching the home run, and they've pasted those videos together. But Travis hits the ball deep to right, and he quits looking at it. He starts to stretch and get ready for stepping back into the box for the next pitch. And and the catcher for UC Irvine's reaching over his hand to get the new baseball to put in play from the umpire for the next pitch. And the wind, which was blowing across, thank heaven, from right towards left, the ball was hit so high by Travis that it kind of got pushed back fair over the foul pole, well beyond the bleachers, in right towards the railroad tracks. A majestic shot. But you see Travis when he kind of hears, he told me in the pregame interview the next day, he said, I heard the crowd starting to make noise. What are they cheering about? I look up, I see the umpire signaling fair, and you see Micah McDowell in the on-deck circle in the background with a Carlton fist pushing it fair kind of motion. And then Travis just jumped in the air, spun around, pumped his fist, toured the bases exuberantly. And it's that kind of emotion I think you're talking about. I think the players like Travis, a veteran and ultra-talented player, is going to thrive in an atmosphere like this.
You mentioned Travis Bazzana, and I think it was maybe a day or two ago. It was announced he is one of 3 finalists for the Golden Spikes Award. If people don't know what we're talking about, it's the College Baseball Heisman. It's a weird looking award. I know Adley Rutschman won it back in 2019. It does look like just a pair of shoes that they got some gold spray paint on, but still a very high-level award in college baseball. So, and I know, obviously, we've talked a lot, Mike, throughout this season about Travis and the season he has had, but kind of being recognized not only as one of the best there at Oregon State, but now a finalist for the Golden Spikes Award.
Yeah, he's something else. Really is. The thing that I've appreciated about Travis is how much he's embraced the experience here. And Adley did too, certainly growing up not far from Corvallis and I'm in a legendary family that he came from already to come down and play for the Beavers. But he went about his business in a bit a quieter, studious, workmanlike kind of way. Good with the media, good with all of us, good with the interviews. But not quite as Bazzana is a garrulous, fun. He loves the game. He loves his teammates. He loves the city. He didn't take anything for granted. Maybe Adley kind of knew what he was walking into, and other players coming in knew the culture and the community of Oregon State baseball and had grown up with it. Baz comes from outside of Sydney all the way up here and just was fascinated from day one by what the community of Corvallis is all about. He had gone to Arizona State first on his first sort of unofficial visit when he came over with a Ryan Roland Smith team to play in a tournament down in Arizona. Ryan Roland Smith brought a team up and tipped the Beavers off. Hey, I got a couple of guys, one in particular you might be interested in, because he had played minor league baseball with our pitching coach, Rich Dorman. So he and Dor were good friends. And, it's all about everything in life on the relationships and the people you know and build friendships with that Ryan Roland Smith tipped off Dor. Pat Bailey went and looked at, came back with a report to Dorman and says, well, your guy's right. They've got a pretty good second baseman. And Bazana took a visit to Arizona State and then flew to Portland into a state he'd never been in, picked up at PDX by Jake Rodriguez, former catcher and director of ops. And Boz has told me and others almost from the moment he got in Rodriguez's pickup to make the trip down I-5 and 34 to Corvallis, he was sold. He loved what he saw. He loved the vibe when he got to the ballpark. And he has just embraced the whole experience and been willing to kind of talk about how special it's been. And he told me just a couple of days ago, he says, I want to be an ambassador for this place for the rest of my life. It's just been life-changing. I'm so glad to be here. So that type of thing, Justin, when you hear that, he's not just saying that to ingratiate himself with fans. He's saying it out of his heart. And it's been just a joy to follow his career, whether he goes 1-1, whether he wins the pair of Golden Spike shoes or not. He's just been one of the greats ever to come through Oregon State athletics, and it's been a joy to cover his career.
I mean, not to get too deep into the weeds. Do you get like a new pair of Golden Spikes every year? Like, does Adley have like his own Golden Spikes? Does it like the Stanley Cup? You have to give the Golden Spikes back.
It's a good question. You know what? I've never followed through on the details of what exactly it all entails. I like the sound of it, and I like the recognition that being a Golden Spikes award winner carries with it. But what exactly it entails, Justin, I'm sorry, I don't know.
I don't know. Do the kids still wear spikes, Mike? I think they're all on like they all have like the rubber cleats and things like. I don't even know, do they even wear spikes anymore?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
They do, and here they'll be wearing spikes. It's I haven't been to Kentucky Proud Park. I do think there's a turf. I've read about it. I'll be going to practice there today with the team later this afternoon here, so I'll get a good look at it. But yeah, I think they'll be in old-fashioned spikes. I expect that.
Mike Parker is the voice of the Oregon State Beavers, joining us here on 620 Rib City Radio. I mentioned it last segment, Mike. When you get into the postseason, pitching and pitching depth is kind of everything. And yeah, every once in a while, maybe you catch some offensive fire, or sometimes the bats don't show up on the road trip. Those are always tough weekends. But usually, if you have good pitching, you're going to have a chance. And a lot of it comes down to health, depth, usage, and all of that. So where are we right now? I know you alluded to the Friday and the Saturday starters, but where are the Beavs right now in pitching health, pitching depth heading into this series?
Really, in really good shape, I think, Justin. And you're right. I mean, when I mentioned how good May and Kamats are, and they're great. I mean, they really are big-time frontline guys who are pitching their best baseball. But in saying that, it's rare. We've had one complete game on the season that was thrown by Kamat. So it's not like we're saying, okay, May will give us a good 9, and then Kamats will too, and then that should do it. No, I mean, they've got to have some other guys. The emergence of a local kid out of Jesuit in Nelson Keljo here of late, big, strong, physical left-hander, and he too plays with a great deal of emotion and thrives on it. After every pitch, he's jumping up and down. One time earlier this year, he threw a great pitch that produced a little weak ground ball to the right side. After his delivery, he's jumping high in the air. He came down, kind of twisted his ankle in the process, and then hobbled over late to cover first. And the runner was safe on a great pitch that Keljo made. Nelson told me later, he said, I was just so excited about making the pitch I wanted that I was jumping up and down. And so he didn't get over to do job one, which was to cover on the little dribbler. So he learned from that. And he's just gotten better and better as the season's gone along. So he is to me, a very reliable bridge guy out of the bullpen that can take you 3 or 4 innings if you need it, 2 innings to get to the closer at Bridger Holmes at the back end, who's been one of the best closers in the country. That said, that's 4 guys, but you still They're going to need Eric Segura to give you some good innings, and he's a freshman, and he's been a little up and down, but when he's up, he's really good. They've got to find two or three other guys to navigate, not necessarily this weekend, but as you allude to, the format in Omaha, if they can get there, they're going to need, somebody to emerge and pitch the best they ever have to try to bring the whole thing home. But I think it sets up pretty well just the way it's been trending here of late.
Mike Barker, voice of the Oregon State Beavers, joining us from Lexington, Kentucky, where tomorrow, 3 o'clock local time, the Beavs will take on the Kentucky Wildcats. Best 2 out of 3 in the Super Regional with a trip to Omaha on the line. The only thing I can give you, Mike, from my travels to Lexington, and I don't know if you are a barbecue guy. I am a barbecue snob. Brendan once asked me, what am I a snob and an elitist with?
Mm-hmm.
I am with barbecue. Blue Door Smokehouse. 2 thumbs up. Highly recommend. If in fact
okay.
you got a hankering for some good barbecue, maybe later tonight after practice.
No, I appreciate that. We may tonight, though, I think, I'm told, that Cincinnati is only about an hour and a half up the road. And Nick Madrigal and the Cubs are playing in Cincinnati. So
that's way better.
Talk. Yeah, now as good as that barbecue is, and I trust you as a barbecue snob that's a good fallback position if we don't go to Cincinnati for an MLB game tonight.
Yeah, I think quick road trip to the great city of Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Seeing a Major League Baseball game, that's a much better option. So
it's a good option, no doubt.
All right, Mike Parker's going to be on the call tomorrow. Hey, Mike, thanks so much for your time.
Guys.
I've enjoyed talking to you all throughout the season. Hopefully we will have you on again from another state there in the Midwest in the near future.
Nice.
But we shall not throw anything else out into the universe. Mike, thanks so much. Have a great call tomorrow.
Thanks,
have a great Super Region. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
There you go, Mike Parker. Hey, what do you go about this barbecue spot? We're going to a ball game. Much better option. It is a weird thing about Cincinnati. A lot of people don't realize. Like, it's clearly Cincinnati, Ohio, but Cincinnati's Kentucky. I think the Cincinnati airport is technically in Kentucky. Like, you fly into Kentucky, like it's right there on the Ohio River. The Ohio River, of course, is created by the Allegheny and the Monongahela there in the Three Rivers city of Pittsburgh. They create the Ohio, and then it hits all the way down, feeds into the Mississippi. Did a lot of geography on this show today. Remember we did math?
I learned more about the Midwest and steel cities than I ever cared to know.
This is way better than the math we were doing on like Tuesday. I think we were doing a lot of math on the show.
We were.
Today was geography-led, and you know what? I like that much better.
I agree, especially when we talk about these NBA cities and stuff. It's been a good day.
All right. You know what makes it an even better day? Wrapping up the show, having a great mailbag, and getting ready for a very fun, sunny, beautiful weekend. But something else going on this weekend. That's right. If you're down in the great city of Roseburg in the great county of Douglas, and you are at the Fred Meyer, my hometown Fred Meyer, and you see a Toyota Tundra that is specially marked, that's because we need your help filling that truck with canned and non-perishable food items to benefit the Oregon Food Bank. That's right. 2 locations this weekend. Tomorrow, noon to 2 in Roseburg, the Fred Meyer. And then on Sunday, if you are even further into southern Oregon, say Josephine County, the Fred Meyer in Grants Pass, also from noon to 2 there to benefit the Oregon Food Bank. Bring your non-perishable and canned food items. And while you're there, hey, enter to win a trip for 2 to the iHeartRadio Music Festival in Las Vegas. Go to the events page at ripcityradio.com for a complete list of dates and locations, and join us at Fred Meyer as we fill the truck for the Oregon Food Bank. We have the RCM mailbag next, 620 Rip City Radio. Okay. Let's dive right into it because we are ready to attack the weekend. Got sunshine to enjoy, got baseball to watch. NBA Finals back on Sunday.
Outside TV this weekend?
Oh, outside TV's coming up
There you
big.
go.
Coming up big. Might start tonight.
It's nice enough yesterday, too. I actually ate dinner outside. It was kind of nice. And just like, you take for granted. You're like, oh, almost 80 degrees at like 6 o'clock. Yeah, this is nice.
Yeah, it's going to be a beautiful weekend. Very excited about that. What about next weekend? Don't worry about next weekend. Worry about today, in the now, and we're going to enjoy it. And we're also going to enjoy the RCM mailbag because it starts right now.
All right. Firing up the big mailbag today.
Yo.
Let's see. What is your favorite part of the grocery store, Justin, and why?
Oh, this is a very good question. This is a very, very good question because it has changed and evolved over time. As a child, there are two parts of the grocery store that are the best. One, cereal aisle. Cereal aisle is the best part of the grocery store as a kid.
Pretty good.
Second is, of course, the checkout because the checkout has the soda, the candy, the snacks. And they do that on purpose because they know once you are already locked into to a check stand, and then I would say as a child, I was like, oh, can I get a Dr. Pepper or can I get a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup? And you know what? Mom's more inclined to just like, fine, here you go. Don't tell your brother. But the cereal aisle is the best part as a child. Right now, Brendan, it is a tie between the deli. I love the deli and the meat department because I am a grilling man. I grill 24 hours, not 24 hours, 12 months out of the year. 12 months out of the year, snow, sleet, hail, rain, shine. Your boy is out on his back porch grilling. I grill all day, every day. So I get real excited to where Kelly and I will go to the grocery store together. Brendan, I get to the meat department. She just leaves. She's like, meet me. I'll keep getting other stuff. Just because I'm searching. Like, what do I want today? Do I want to do carne asada today? What do I think about pork carnitas? What do I think about maybe doing a full roast beef? But I think push comes to shove, nothing beats the deli counter. Nothing. An endless supply of delicious salads and where else can you get a thing of potato salad, a thing of chicken strips, spicy, a corn dog, and a full-on rotisserie chicken? Where else are you going? And in some places, you might also be able to get some Chinese food, and you might also be able to get some Mexican food.
There's everything, man.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think now that we have talked it out, the deli counter is the best. Sometimes you get a nice sub sandwich made. Do you know what I mean? A custom-made sub sandwich. It's got to be the deli counter. You with me on deli counter?
Yeah, no, I like the deli counter.
Every once in a while, I used to, not anymore because, I worry about diet a little bit more now in my later years, but every once in a while, I used to go to the deli counter.
But I will
I'd sneak a corn dog. Like, you get 2 corn dogs for $1 back in the day. And, like, they would have, like, the jalapeno corn dogs. You sneak a corn dog, eat it before you get home. Almost like it didn't count. If you can eat the corn dog before you walk in the door, calories don't count.
Deli is solid. I like the chip aisle because it's usually the chips and soda. So that's a
chips and soda at your.
Yeah, like our Safeway, it's chips on one side and soda on the other. So like that's kind of that's a real winner. You see all them cases of soda lined up. That's heaven for you, boy.
I also like now this is more of a convenience store than supermarket, but I do like when you walk in and it's just like the refrigerator full of like sodas and like maybe some you never heard of. Oh, there's a root beer. Oh, there's a cream soda there.
Right.
Hey, maybe there's an iced coffee right there. And like, I love those places. They've got those sometimes in supermarkets too. I'm going deli counter though.
Yeah, good stuff. Let's stick in the store, Justin.
What's your favorite chip? Or does it
Ruffles, cheddar, and sour cream.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It really is
Tough
so
to
good.
beat.
It is very tough to beat.
Like, I
because you can enjoy them with a dip
yes.
and
By
on their
themselves.
own.
Yeah. No, like, I used to like Lay's cheddar and sour cream, but then once I found Ruffles cheddar and sour cream, game over. So Ruffles have ridges, man.
Doritos, nacho cheese
Those are
Doritos
good,
are
too.
great but you can't dip them in. That's just thirsty if you're doing that. You know what I mean? Anyways.
I like the Doritos spicy nacho flavor. That's a pretty good flavor. Not so big on the Cool Ranch. Like, I'll eat them, but not like if you give me my choice, I'm reaching for those Ruffles cheddar and sour cream.
They're so good.
And I'm not gonna lie, Justin. I know you would never, but not too long ago, I don't know if you've noticed like how the Ruffles has the partnership with LeBron and Jason Tatum. So LeBron's
Flamin' Hot
are the Flamin' Hot cheddar and sour cream. They're really good.
Are they?
They're really good. I'm not
Listen,
gonna lie.
LeBron annoys me, but I have yet to boycott things just because LeBron's name's on them.
You see his big old picture right on the front of the bag.
I think I have 2 pair of LeBron shoes.
Okay,
right,
fair,
just because
fair.
I like them. They are very comfortable.
I don't know how often you reach and eat for chips, but say you ever did, I'd try them. If you like the cheddar and sour cream, I think you would like them as
You
well.
gotta find a mini bag.
Yeah,
like a
good
mini
little-
bag. I can't have a big bag
Yeah,
in
I
my
feel
house
it.
because then I dive into and I eat them all.
If I ever see a mini bag, I'm getting one for you.
All right,
All
get
right,
a mini bag.
so let's close with this. We'll stay in the grocery store, Justin.
Okay.
Give me, out of all that you can think of, the best Hostess snack.
This is very.
So we're talking Twinkies, we're talking
Yep.
fruit pies, we're talking ding dongs, we're talking ho-hos, we're talking
there is a
zingers.
all right, so the battle is between the cupcake and the ho-ho.
There you
like
go.
that is the battle. Now you might say, Justin, the ho-ho whole thing encompassed in chocolate and filled with cream. How could that? But the cupcake, the top frosting is a little thicker. It's a little thicker than the shell around. So I'm going cupcake. Yep, I'm going cupcake.
Cupcakes.
I feel like it's kind of like tacos, burritos, enchiladas. It's all the same stuff, just in a different form. But the form does seem to matter. I'm going cupcake, and not the weird yellow cupcake one. The OG chocolate cupcake, chocolate frosting, white swirly down the middle
Justin, you should
with
be
little
you
shot
should
of
be,
cream inside.
You should be thrilled. The internet agrees with you because
Yeah,
I
of
found
course
a list to look at this, and cupcakes came in as number 1. They said they are similar to ding dongs, but with less fudge coating, we think they taste better.
I love them. I do.
There you go. Winner, winner.
But
Chicken dinner.
Ding Dong's number 2. Number 2 on the list. Ho-Ho's 3rd. All chocolate. Sorry, Twinkie. Overrated. That's going to do it for the big show. Thanks to Mike Parker. Thanks to super producer Brendan. Thanks to all of you. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you Monday morning here on 620 Rip City Radio.